We're grateful to the choir for their beautiful music. Following my remarks, they will sing, "Come, ye thankful people, come." And the benediction will then be offered by Elder W. Douglas Shumway of the 70. We shall meet again at 2 o'clock. Now, my brothers and sisters, let me first deal with a personal matter. The president of the church belongs to the entire church. His life is not his own. His mission is to serve. Now, as all of you know, I'm somewhat old in years. I had my 96th birthday last June. I've learned from many sources that there is considerable speculation concerning my health. I wish to put the record straight. If I last a few months longer, I will have served to an older age than any previous president of the church. I do not say this to be boastful, but rather grateful. Last January, I underwent major surgery. It was a miserable experience, particularly for one who'd never previously been a patient in a hospital. Following this was the question as to whether I should undergo further treatment. I chose to do so. My doctors have called the results miraculous. I know that the favorable results come from your many prayers in my behalf. I am deeply grateful to you. The Lord has permitted me to live. I do not know for how long, but whatever the time, I shall continue to give my best to the task at hand. It is not an easy thing to preside over this large, complex church. Nothing escapes the attention of the First Presidency. No major decision, no expenditure of funds is made without their approval. The responsibility and stress are great, but we shall carry on as long as the Lord wishes. As I said last April, we are in His hands. I feel well. My health is reasonably good. But when it is time for a successor, the transition will be smooth and according to the will of Him whose church this is. And so we go forward in faith. And faith is the theme I wish to discuss this morning. From the beginning, this church has moved forward with faith. Faith was the strength of the prophet Joseph. I'm grateful for the faith that took him into the grove to pray. I'm grateful for the faith to translate and publish the Book of Mormon. I am grateful that he went to the Lord in prayer that was answered with the bestowal of the Aaronic and Melchizedek priesthoods. I am grateful that in faith he organized the church and set it on its course. I thank him for the gift of his life as a testimony to the truth of this work. Faith was also the moving power behind Brigham Young. I often reflect on the tremendous faith he exercised in bringing a very large number of people to settle this Salt Lake Valley. He knew very little of the area. He had never seen it except in vision. I suppose he had studied what meager information there was, but he knew almost nothing of the soil or the water or the climate. And yet, when he looked upon it, he said without hesitation, "This is the right place, move on." And so it has been with each of the presidents of the church. In the face of terrible opposition, they've moved forward with faith. whether it was crickets destroying their crops, whether it was drought or late frost, whether it was persecution by the federal government, or more recently, whether it was an urgent need to extend humanitarian aid to victims of the tsunami, or earthquakes or floods in diverse places, it has all been the same. Welfare shelves have been emptied. Cash by the millions has been dispatched to those in need, regardless of church membership, all in faith. This is an important anniversary year in the history of the church, as all of you know. It is the 150th anniversary of the coming of the Willie and Martin Handcart companies and the Hunt and Hodgett wagon companies which accompanied them. Much has been written concerning this, and I need not go into detail. All of you are familiar with the story. Suffice it to say that those who set out on the long journey from the British Isles to the valley of the Great Salt Lake began their travel in faith. They had little or no knowledge of what they were getting into, but they moved forward. They began their journey with great expectation. That expectation gradually failed them as they moved west. As they commenced the tedious journey following the Platte River and then up the valley of the Sweetwater, the cold hand of death took its fearsome toll. Their food was rationed, their oxen died, their carts broke down. They had inadequate bedding and clothing. Storms raged. They sought shelter, but they found none. The storms beat about them. They literally starved to death. Scores died and were buried in the frozen ground. Fortunately, they were passed by Franklin D. Richards on his way from England. He had a lightweight conveyance with horses and was able to travel much faster. He came on to this valley. It was this very season of the year. The General Conference was in session. When Brigham Young received the news, he immediately stood before the congregation and said, "I will now give this people the subject and the text for the elders who may speak today and during this conference. It is this: on the 5th day of October, 1856, many of our brethren and sisters are on the plains with handcarts, and probably many are now 700 miles from this place. They must be brought here. We must send assistance to them. The text will be to get them here. I want the brethren who may speak